Alright guys, so we're going to be doing the stick movement and mobility test. So it's 6 different exercises to test out your movement patterns and your mobility throughout different parts of your body. Now, what you could use is a PVC pipe, or you could also use a broomstick, anywhere from 4 to 6 feet. The taller you are, the longer you might need it, and the shorter you are, the less you need it. This is about 3.5 feet, 4 feet, right? It does me fine, so I could work with this, right? So you want to mark down, grab a ruler or something to measure, and mark down every inch up to 12 inches. So that way you can see on one of the tests where your mobility is, and I'll explain further when we get to that one. But let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first one is posture test. Now, very, very basic. It's just testing on your posture to see if you stand up nice and tall, naturally, right? If I put the stick on, it's touching 3 parts. My head, my shoulders, the back of my shoulders, and my glutes between my butt. Now, if I was just standing, this is my normal posture, and if I put it, it's touching those 3 points, right? Some people are hunched over, so they lose that posture, or they're hyperextended and they're kind of not touching those 3 parts. So the object is to keep the alignment throughout, right? So you're going to do other tests that require you to keep that normal posture. If you're already struggling with this, let's say you can't reach back there, you can't flare your elbows out, that means you have tight chest, pecs, shoulders, etc. If you feel that it's hard for your butt to touch, that means you're either tucked under, posterior tilted, or anterior tilted if you feel that it's kind of like too much or not touching your upper back. Sometimes it's here, that means you're rounded, right? So there's different things you're looking for. But if you guys have questions about, working on certain things, or you can't do it, send me an email at easyfitnesslife@gmail.com. Alright, so the sit and reach test. Now, this is where you could use someone to help you out, makes it a little bit easier, or you could do it yourself. What you're measuring is your hamstring, calf, and lower back mobility. Now, if you're touching your toes, that's a 0, right? If you could go past your toes, it's a positive number. Anything below your toes or before your toes is a negative. Now, for men, you usually want to be at a +4. For women, +6. That's good mobility. If you can't even get close to your toes, you're negative. That's something to be worried about, because any time that you have tightness, it's always a greater chance of injury. Let's say you want to do a quick sprint or something. Well, your hamstrings are so tight, if you do the mechanics that you're supposed to, you could pull your hamstring, or you already have pulled your hamstring. That's a sign to maybe make sure you're stretching it out more, foam rolling it, trigger pointing, etc. And you can look back at some of the other videos I made of how specifically to do that. But when you're looking how far you could go. It could be a negative, positive, whatever. Just look at the marks on your PVC pipe to tell you how far you could go. If you guys need any other questions or help, just email me at easyfitnesslife@gmail.com. Now, this third one, it's an RDL. Now notice, I'm still keeping those 3 points of contact, my head, shoulders, and butt, throughout the movement. The main thing is to make sure you go down as far as you can without losing those 3 points. Now, if you do, that means you're compensating somehow. Let's say like your head goes forward, that's putting more stress on your neck. If you round, the lower back where your butt's not going to be touching, that puts pressure on your lower back, mid back, etc. So you want to make sure you're touching those 3 points as you're doing it. A lot of movements stem from making sure your back is straight. Let's say you're doing a bent over row. It's almost like if you're holding a position that requires that alignment, right? You do RDLs, right? Requires the same alignment. You do, let's say, deadlifts, right? That alignment is still required throughout a series of movements. So if you can't maintain a proper alignment and then you're adding volume or more weight, potential of injury is a lot greater. So this is why we do this test, to see if you're mobile and you could do the movement with proper mechanics. If you can't, I would say practice the mechanics first and the posture, and then progress into doing it with a load, right? If you guys need more help or have questions about that, you could email me at easyfitnesslife@gmail.com. Alright, so single leg RDLs, almost very similar to the one before, but this one you're on one leg eventually, creating stability through the hip that's planted, right? So that glute should be working a lot. You still want to keep those 3 points of contact, head, shoulders, and your glutes throughout the movement. You should feel it, like I mentioned, your glutes, but also through your hamstrings. If you feel on your lower back, that means you're creating a lot of rotation. Regardless of the angle that you're looking at, it should be touching those 3 points, and the bar, the PVC, should be nice and straight. So if you're looking at it from, let's say, the back, and I'm doing this, that's not vertical, right? I want complete alignment as I'm doing this. If you feel the inside of your knee, that means you're collapsing as you're doing the movement, which are a lot of conversations that I see at the gym. Also, people rotate their hips, which takes away the glute working, which most women or men, that's what they're trying to target. So it kind of like defeats the purpose of the movement. So give it a try. If you guys need any help or have questions, email me at easyfitnesslife@gmail.com. Alright guys, so I just showed you a lunge, same thing, 3 points of contact, head, upper back, and your glutes, and making sure that PVC pipe is as vertical as possible. So if the PVC pipe is here, that means you're angling through your hips. Even if it's touching those 3 points, you want to keep it here, right? So that way you're loading your hips better in your quads, which is what you're trying to emphasize. Now, if it doesn't touch those 3 points and you're hunched over and leaves your butt, then you're starting to put pressure on your lower back. Even if you're holding dumbbells, it doesn't matter. You're making your lower back work harder than they should, right? You step out, you come straight down, come up, and back, right? So keep that in mind. Your elbows, try to keep them flared out. Where they should rest, neck, behind your neck, and the small of your lower back, okay? If that's a struggle, that means you have a lot more mobility issues through your shoulders, so keep that in mind. If you guys have any questions or need help with this, email me at easyfitnesslife@gmail.com. Alright guys, last but not least for the test, we have overhead squats. Now, overhead squats is the more complex of all of them. It consists of your upper and lower body limbs and testing out your flexibility on both of those parts. The main thing is trying to keep the bar as vertical as possible, right? You want the path of the bar to be vertical. Now, at the same time, you want to be shoving your hips back, like in a squat, without letting your heels come up, or your knees collapse. You want your knees aligned with your toes. So if you're here, you're fine here. You shouldn't see this or you shouldn't see that, right? If you're here, then straight on. Don't go too wide, or if you have trouble not being able to have enough flexibility, as you can see with mine, I was tied a little bit through the shoulders. I haven't really stretched to be able to demonstrate this the greatest, but you know, you get the concept. So maybe you need a longer bar to be able to do the motion. So overhead squats is the last one. Now, with that being said, we went through all 6 exercises or tests in order to see where your mobility is and if you're ready to move on to start lifting heavy, etc. Right? I like to do a grading scale. So each test you do 1, 2, or 3. A grade of 3 means you pretty much hit all the points you need to, right? You're right on. A 2, you hit most of them, but not all of them. And a 1, you barely hit any, or you didn't hit any at all, right? So the total score goes from 6 all the way to 18. So if you're between a 6 to 10, then that means you have very bad mobility. I wouldn't suggest lifting heavy weights because you're most likely going to injure yourself. If you're at a 11 to I have 14, you're okay, still at a risk of injury. I would probably say work a little bit more. It won't be that long until you're able to start lifting heavy or start progressing in your loads, your volume. And then 15 to 18 is you're pretty good. You're doing it very well. You got most of your mobility, mechanics working, so you have lower chance of injury. This is not by any means saying that you're 100%, you're not going to injure yourself. No, this is just to get like an idea, right? The tighter you are, most likely you're going to get injured. The looser you are and more mobile, the less of a chance, right? So to give you an idea, for me, I would say I'm at 17, 16 on a bad day, and the reason being on the overhead squats I struggle a little bit, especially if I have super tight chest or I did chest the day before, I haven't stretched out, etc. Or on some of the movements that requires the PVC pipe to go nice and straight, I might be kind of angled and I feel like I'm straight, right? So like on the lunge, I want to make sure I'm completely this pipe is completely vertical, right? So sometimes I might be not in that vertical position. So that's probably why I give myself that. But I'm still in the range to be able to lift as long as I'm still aware when I'm lifting heavy weights. So once again, this is just a test to get an idea of where you are mobility-wise to see if it's a good idea for you to start moving. Now, most likely this is for beginners, some intermediate people. If you're an advanced lifter, most likely you already know all these things and your movements are pretty good. If you're an advanced lifter and you can get at a 3 above 15, then you probably are very prone to injuries or have injuries currently. So maybe I would suggest regressing and learning proper mechanics so that way you reduce your chance or not get injured down the line, right? So just give it a try, guys. If you guys have any questions, how to do it, exactly what I'm looking for, send me a video with you doing the test or email me at easyfitnesslife@gmail.com. You can find me on social media at easyfitnesslife on Facebook, Instagram, or you could even comment on this video. Hopefully this stuff helps. I know it's a lot of stuff to cover and go over, but remember, you don't really need that much. All you need is something to get you through these exercises, see where you are, and have fun with it. All right? See you guys next time.